Experience today's Umbria. Experience Umbria through the European Union's cohesion policy.
Hello, nice to be here, nice to see you. This place is, hi, nice to see you also. This is a wonderful place to talk about theater or art and journalism. And we have two wonderful guests here. Vanessa Rousselot. My French is not so good, so I don't know how to pronounce your last name.
Perfect, Rousselot, perfect.
Rousselot, okay, perfect. Working with Diario Vivo. It's a Spanish media news, not really news, media kind of outlet, doing a lot of live shows, which are incredible. She will talk about it. And Jean Peters, who is here as the guy from CORRECTIV, who is running our department on art or theater and journalism, who has got a different approach from the one Vanessa is presenting. As the only thing a journalist must do is be on time, I suggest we just start and finish on point. Vanessa, please introduce us to Diario Vivo.
Thank you very much for this invitation. Really happy to be here in Perugia, learning from other people and showing the work. So I'll go on with the presentation. I came here representing Diario Vivo. Diario Vivo, it has two meanings in English. It means a living diary and a live news bulletin, both of it at the same time. We are both. What we do is journalism with emotions, having journalists, but not only, I will let you know, going on stage and tell its story in a personal way. They are important stories for them, and this is one of the various reasons that it's not filmed, also because you don't listen the same way today if you know that you won't be able to watch this in another place and to listen to it in another place. So it's a very unique moment in the theater, discovering stories that have been prepared during months and chosen with a lot of different criteria. So actually we are, Live magazine. I don't know, could you raise your hands how many people here are familiar to live journalism? Okay, great, a lot of you, and you had great panels about live journalism during the festival, so you know it. It began in the US with Pop-Up magazine, and you have the Live magazine in France, Black Box in Finland, Headliner in Germany. Now we are really a community doing live journalism shows in different places. In Spain, we began in 2017. We've been filling theaters and, until now. We began with 100%, now it's 1,000 in our main theater, main venue in Madrid. So we did 35 shows, having around 25,000 people watching the shows, and doing it in different cities in Spain, and in special occasion in Mexico, DF, and Paris. So Diario Vivo is you are living it. It's an experience. You sit in the theater like here today. You don't know, you don't have any idea who will be there, what they will be talking to you about. You just know that it will be good stories you should remember within 20 years if we did the job well. And you need to cry, you need to laugh during a Diario Vivo. This is what we try to prepare for you. It's also a way to restore the relationship of trust between audience and journalists. That's why I choose to include this sentence of a Spanish newspaper. When we began, they were saying, "Who said journalism is dead?" The idea is really to get it, tell it clearly that journalism is really alive and strong with people there. I'd like to give you maybe just a few and quick ideas of the kind of story we bring to stage. This man is called Martin Barreiro. Every single Spanish knows him because he's a weatherman since 15 years on the public channel. And he's been on Diario Vivo stage to tell how he began to do this job, because he really wanted people to decide. He find it nice, no? People can listen to the weather and say, should I go for a picnic during the weekend? But actually with climate change, now he's announcing death and risk and alarms, you know. And he personally, since he's a child, have a complicated relationship and a lot of fear to death. So this is a kind of story that he would never tell in another place. And I think how powerful, no, to have the weatherman confessing about his intimate relationship to climate change. To give you an example, this is an example of Andrea Aldana, maybe the Colombian here, if we have in the room, you know her. She's an exiled journalist, and she did a huge immersion between the guerrilla in Colombia and told a Diario Vivo story and a love affair she even had during this immersion that she couldn't say in another place. Bueno, this was a French journalist from Reuters who, because we try to have powerful and funny stories at the same time. And for example, I don't know if you remember, but the Maya calendar said that the world would end at some time of 2012, but the only place you could resist was this small village from the south of France, and where we had 400 journalists and 2,000 policemen. And so he was telling how was his last day, you know. I think all the projects of live journalism within the world, we have our own specificities and way of doing things. In Diario Vivo, we decided not to have only journalists on stage. Maybe if we have 8 persons in a show, maybe 2-3 of them are not journalists, because we are looking for stories that we think are really important, but journalists couldn't say. Couldn't tell. This woman, Josefina Esquivel, she's from Paraguay. She's a domestic worker, and she told the story of how letting her kids in Paraguay, she took care of a kid in Spain, Juanito, during 5 years. He would be with her all day long. He would even sleep in the same room. And one day the mother said, you were not supposed to become the mother, so please out. This is a kind of story also we tell on Diario Vivo. To give you an example of this non-journalist having amazing stories, this is a priest who is also, as you can see, a hard rock fan, and he doesn't see the contradiction between the two. It's also a place to get further stories that are in all social medias, but to tell them in a different way. This woman, Solene Soto, she was famous because she became viral because she was writing erotic poetry. And she went on TV reading her erotic poetry, and people really were laughing at her, you know. So we contacted her. We said, but what's the real story? And she told us, I lost my husband, I lost my son, and I'm just writing everything I'm not able to live. And so it's also a way to go deeper in some stories. We do a lot of, so we have 2 main shows a year in Madrid, and then we do a lot of thematic show collaboration with other medias. For example, this one was a media magazine of about environment in Spain, Ballena Blanca. We did also with schools about educations. Last month we did in Madrid in a foundation, cultural foundation called La Casa Encendida. We did this show with deaf people and people who are not. So on stage we had these 2 kind of, we had this show that for all these different audience and people could explaining, really telling on stage what is it not to hear anything since ever, and telling this story for a public who is not going through this. And so it's also a way not just to do journalism, but also to understand each other in a way that the life doesn't offer us already always the opportunity. Telling you maybe the music is really important. We are in a theater, we go to this kind of show to feel something, we adapt the music depending on the show. This was an amazing singer. So this is a bit the idea of Diario Vivo. What is the process behind, what is the backstage? Telling a story in Diario Vivo is not a walk in the park, that's clear. It's a kind of a strong experience because we really try to go deep with the person, to try to, as a journalist, so how it impacts you, what is the story behind the stories, and it has to be a revealing experience in a way. We want people to go out of the stage a bit different, from before the process. If we managed this, then we did well. It has to affect them also, the one who are telling the story. So I think all of this, I'm sure that is something we share in the room, but one of our very strong motivation is that we believe it's so important not to be connected to the world alone with our screens. That's obvious, is part of our relationship to the world, but we need people, we need places where we can meet with different people. In Diario Vivo, we make a huge effort to have available, 16 euros is the price of the cheapest ticket, and we work on a lot of the story to have it really someone who is 16 and is not aware about the news should understand everything during the show. So, and we always have people from very different political background. In Spain, you don't have many places with people from right and left on the same stage. So yeah, let's not lose our capacity to interact, and that's what we're working on, basically.
Thank you. I've got one question to you on the work you do with, let's say, people like you introduced to us, this lady from Paraguay. I know everybody has a story, but it's always difficult to tell the story. How do you work with these people that they are able to tell their story in a way that it's effective, that it's opening the audience to them?
Thank you. Yeah. Something really, we try to invite them to see a show before they participate, because this is super important. Maybe this woman, she's been twice in the theater in her life, so she can't arrive there. And I would say it's it depends, because really we adapt a lot. For example, this woman, I've been working with her. I've been writing with her the story, and I would listen to her, I would write what she says, and then I would edit a text, and then really we prepared her like for the Olympic Games, I swear, because people in Diario Vivo usually don't read, so it means that they they are agreed to really take time, not just to think about it, but then a month before the show, the story is ready, and we say, please, twice a day, 8 minutes, and tell the story. So they really need to be very much involved. So I would say it's about listening, curiosity, taking them to the show, and they trust us also.
And it sounds like a lot of work. How many time do you need to prepare a show? You said something like 7, 8 people are on stage. How long does it take to prepare such a show?
I mean, we begin deciding who will be in the show and what will be the story maybe 6 months before, but many times we are working on many shows at the same time. And now we are a team that works very well. And then some other people, we also have great journalists who are native storytellers. So in each show, we make sure that we have a percentage of people who will need us less than another group of people in order to take care of all of them. And maybe to say that one of the ideas also that they have a common space. You know, this woman, for example, you've been talking about, she was on the same stage of one of the most famous Spanish journalists. So it's also saying to the audience, we are all our story are equally important.
Yeah, thank you very much. The last pictures you show was the theater in Madrid. It seems to be quite big. How many people attend the show?
We began with 100. This picture, I think it was 700, and now it's 1,000. In Madrid, we are used to be sold out. People repeat with their kids, with their parents, with their colleagues, saying also they don't repeat just for the show. After, people can stay, they have a drink, they share. I think really people come to feed a bit their soul and brain and have something to share with other people, you know, to have a common base. I think many times we look for something in common to be able to talk together. So, yeah.
And your show is a one-time show, so you produce it and then you show it, and when the show is over, it's not being repeated.
Yeah, and obviously this is a huge work for a one-shot night. So now we have also another format because we can't. I mean, we can do this a few times a year, but it's now that we are completely convinced that every single person has a story to tell, and it's you who need to identify that person and tell her that she's legitimate. Maybe her story is worth to be listened to. So now we have a lot of time when we do thematic shows for foundations, for university, for entities. We have a performative show, which is a bit of the same format, but instead of being working months with people who are not always available, we do a casting, we decided who we want in the show, and we do intensive workshop. And during 2 days, we just are 18 hours all together, and at the end people have their story and go on stage. This is another kind of show that we also produce.
Okay, thank you. Then Jean, yeah. Please let us know a little bit about a different approach where it's more about how to make repeatable events.
Yes, thank you. Let me just show the first slide, if you can. I don't know how you do that.
No, it was on the presentation.
No, it's very thin slides. I brought you like slides of slides.
No, it was the same one. I don't know what you did.
Anyway, yeah, I can tell you a little bit about our work, and we hope it's coming back. We did, I mean, since long with CORRECTIV, we are doing, and before my time at CORRECTIV, there was already theater as a means of showing investigations. So basically, you work with a team of theater people to think, how can we tell this as a story on stage with actors, etc. But then we did a bigger investigation a few years ago that was about Nazis in Potsdam, and we decided from the beginning, before we published, that we are going to as well bring it into a theater text. So we had the investigative team in the newsroom, and I then went to Vienna, to the theater in Vienna, to prepare it as a theater evening with actors who would have different roles that fit to the investigation and tell it in a completely different way. So the idea was everything we cannot really tell in a text in a newsroom, and which is more difficult, all the meta, all the discussions we had before we published could be in the theater play. And now I wonder, is the presentation coming back or is it dead?
Hello? Can you give us a sign by hand or by...
Okay. Okay. Anyway, then I'm... Okay. So, so it does its own art. We are trying to, show you art in an abstract way as well. Yes, so you were just able to see for a split second the theater piece that we did there in Potsdam after the Potsdam investigation. It was in the Berliner Ensemble. And what we did this and we could see how it had an impact for people that said, I read the text, it was understandable, but with the theater piece, I had a complete picture that I had like 1 hour sitting and really understanding. What was more difficult when I was just skipping through, like Instagrams of commentaries and all these like headlines flowing around me. So then we decided to say, okay, we take this and try to make it a system. We take we are just building a network of theaters in Germany and in whole Europe actually, where we have an investigation. We give it to a team of authors, of theater authors, and they will then make it a theater text. So then in the end we have 2 texts, and before we publish, we give it to this network of theaters, which is of course, as journalists, you know how difficult it is because you might have to include the theaters in the editing room to be part of the editing process. Otherwise, you cannot distribute the information that has not been confronted yet, right? So there's many like details, legal details, and also ethical details, how to work and set up such a process. But then if you have like, let's say 5 theaters who say, I agree, let's bring it out together, on the date of publication or half a year later, whatever, then you really have discussions all over Europe. And we do it like this. So I just do like this. And no, it's just go...
The other way.
The other way, yes. The other way, like I do like this. So, yes. See, now stop. Wow, this is amazing. So I tried to, I mean, what I just said is basically there as a slide. So, whoa, continue. And the last one was about the Pope, and so also we always think about how do we put the form for the right content? What form do we need if we want to tell the story? So here we published the files of the Vatican where we could prove that in the Vatican, especially my colleague Markus Bentmann and Anna Kassin did this investigation. We have proven files of children abuse that are collected in an archive in the Vatican. So how to tell the story? Of course, the theater play is great, but we also decided to make a church song. A church song, I don't know who of you is listening to church songs normally. I don't. And for people who don't, it's like weirdly understandable. How can you sing something like this for this topic? It's like, it's disgusting. You cannot do like a song of hope and whatever when it's about children being abused. But the people from the churches who heard the thing felt so touched, and they said, wow, can you sing this at the day of at the big conference of Catholics in Germany with 50,000 Catholics, please? And then we reached them, and it's not the news organization saying, look, those Catholic people are abusing children, but it's actually bringing it into the community. So now I'm going to be a bit quicker, if possible. This is pictures from the different investigations to show you obviously the force of arts that you can put different layers, right? When you film someone and project them at the same time, it feels like there's her conscience speaking at the same time. So you can play with things that you cannot do in a text easily, at least. And then there's this, of course, you can have different, and this now it's about the technique of text, right? You can decide to make it different actors. You can decide to say, I have one actor making a monologue, going through it, which is now the one you can see here. He was the actor from the first piece 1 year after, saying, gosh, what happened? And I'm telling you what I went through as 1 hour monologue. So now you go, please, a bit down. Here you see different actors doing a kind of a crime scene. So you have actually a climate story, climate investigation, and it's built on, the facts are put into a fictional crime story, which again helps you to have complexities. A bad CEO actually is not the murderer, it's just a bad CEO. And the murderer is someone else, and you learn a lot about the climate change in the local area. Another would be an essay, a long essay, which puts together a lot of investigations about Benko, for example, or about the war and Putin and the arms industry in Germany. So how, and Nord Stream. So he didn't do it on one investigation, but he took, and this is Califour, greetings from him, he should be here, and he's sick, unfortunately, so I should tell you his love. He brings all this together and tells, you know, like longer essays. I think we skip, quick, go down. This is another guy, that's a weirdo. He is there. I made a tour, right? And the special thing about this tour was that I would take the investigation we did, and I told my personal story. I guess a bit like yours, just not on 1 hour, not 10 minutes. And then we went to clubs, to punk clubs, to big locations, music locations, and it was a completely different atmosphere. And next challenge. And you could have a business model that was interesting because they would book you. We had a booker who would say, I'm selling this tour, and the music clubs would say, we pay, I think, 2,000 euros, and you get the, I don't know, 50% of the ticket prices, and they would make sure the audience comes in, which is very handy, you know, like then you just do your tour. But then, and now I'm coming to the time before I was a Correctiv to give you an idea, what can we do else that is a bit more like artsy, and how can we use arts to actually go undercover and to have new forms of investigation, not just of presentation. And here for the next slide, you can see Call a Spy. You can actually show the next 3 slides, I think. If you go down, we took the phone numbers of NSA, CIA, and others. We found online in some hackers' dumps, and we took these phone numbers, collected them, investigated them, and put them into a phone that you could call up the secret services directly. So in the museum, we did phone booths, people were talking to Secret Service people, and this way we could tell the story of Secret Services, of mass surveillance, of drone strikes, and of all the things that they do to attack democracy, and they could discuss it with them directly. And they were like, sorry, I'm an intelligence analyst, who are you? And this way, it was another way of storytelling, of course, and we then even did a live show, next slide please, where people were calling them as a game show against each other with the Secret Services. Or in the Athens Biennale, an art biennale, 2018, we did another call center. I love call centers. And people were calling the financial regulation institutions like European Central Bank or BaFin in Germany. Greek people it was an actual call center in the exhibition, and for 6 weeks from 9 to 5 they were working and calling them and asking them about how they're regulating the financial system and why they fucked up so much in Athens. And then they documented and put it online, and people could vote about the answers, and they would call back next day and say, we have another question from another person. So it was a regulating the regulators kind of thing. So you can go down, and we really played it like this, you know, it was a bit of a performance, but it was real, trying to, like with investigative means, citizen journalism means, try to get information about the financial markets. And just as a last example, we also went undercover as state. So as a state actor, we created a fake agency from the state agency, and we called up the CEOs of the biggest companies of Germany and said, we want to give you a lot of subsidies. And they were very happy to talk to us. And then we, bit by bit, like got out a lot of information that they would never say publicly, never. And I mean, we put funny hair, which doesn't make sense because we're on the phone, but still, it was just to show how you can use means of technology, art, and playfulness to then publish something and get information that, yeah, we try to develop new forms of arts like this.
Yeah. But I think what is so important about that, yeah. What I think what is so important about that is, if you do live journalism as live, like the journalist is on stage, you've got one story or a couple of stories you can produce, and reproducing it is very difficult. And if you go this way to say, okay, we use it in a theater as a theater play, you can reuse it. You can have like a play and can show it in 50 theaters. You can have actors playing it, and they do it with the one essay on war and peace and Putin. It's been shown in one season, I guess 10 times, something like this, and it's sold out every time. And the important part on this is not only that this is a successful story, but you're competing not with seconds on TikTok, but with hours of an audience who gets a lot of information and a common understanding in a common room, in a community, on a topic. Afterwards, they understand what is it about, what is the story about. And this changes people's mind. That's something that makes them think. And the impact of such a story is way bigger than the audience itself. It's people who then can discuss. These are people who then are informed to talk to others. And the reach of these kinds of publications is, from my point of view, the biggest impact one could have. Once I made a calculation that one play in one theater for 2 hours equals around 3.5 million TikTok seconds.
Wow, you're really like the gray men of Momo, no?
With numbers.
With the numbers, yeah. No, and I mean, think about it. If you write a text and you have a proper investigation, you put so much work in it, and it's like all the facts are there, and then you see that it has like, I don't know, 100,000 clicks on your website, and you know, because we know this, unfortunately, out of these 100,000 clicks, like, I don't know, like 80 people read the whole thing. And, more, but I mean, you know, it's like the headlines and then this part and then this part. And the moment a story really gets alive is when people don't only look at their phones, but start discussing it. They go to their partner and they say, you know what I just read? This is amazing. This is horrible. This is dangerous. And this is where a story, when it comes out of the screen into reality, before I call it more or less dead stories, because it's just another time the war industry is doing this and the companies are doing this, and it doesn't affect me. We can't make it something in society, in democracy, right? And the question is, how can we accelerate this? How can we make those stories really become something people in the bar are discussing, and happily or not, right? And this is, so I thought, I mean, the people who called the spies, the Secret Service, they will never forget this, never. And they will tell again and again, I actually talked to the CIA, you know? And he was telling me that it's ethical what he does. It's weird. And then people all understand what the problem is, and it's not another suffocating thing, right? But I think the interesting part about what you do is that you take a lot of time of practicing with the people who come on stage, and we are working with professional actors who just like, you know, get their text and do their shit. And I told you in preparation, I really envy you for this because it's so like it's a creative burst. I feel that you're really bringing there before going. I would love to have half a year to prepare, you know, like a story like this.
Yeah, I want to open. If somebody, if you wants to add or ask, please feel welcome. There's a hand, but I don't know whether there's a microphone.
I can bring them.
There's no. Nee, Joan. Yeah, she's coming.
Okay, sorry. Magician.
Thank you for all the inspiration you just gave me, and I think all of us here in the room. You said that you have a network of about like 50 theaters you work with in, or like you would like
We are working on it.
You're working on it,
yes.
okay. But like you have several theaters already in the network. Do they produce different staging for the story, or is it all the same?
Exactly, yes. So you can contribute and correct me, but so first of all, we don't have this network ready yet. We have one very important partner, this is Schauspiel Köln and Cologne, and we are now building up this network. So there will be workshops. If you know theaters who want to participate, they can call us, and we will think about the best methodologies. And I think in a highly democratic way, the best thing is every theater can then, when they get the text of any investigation, do their own form of theater and can maybe even adapt it locally. So I know a priest in my church who wants to be part of the story about the Pope, then maybe we can work with the priest and he tells his own abuse of his father priest or whatever, right? And this is something we wouldn't be in our investigation, but they might have time to bring it in. So that's the idea.
So we tested it, and what we did is we gave away the scripts, the play, and this was replayed by dozens and dozens of theaters. We kept losing track. It was more than, I guess, 100 theaters who replayed it. And it is possible. And then, in this case in Germany, you've got 3 different types of theaters. It's local theaters financed by the city councils. Then you've got state theaters and independent theaters. And the richest theaters are the ones that are financed by rich cities. These are the so-called A stages. And Cologne is an A stage. It's one of the most important theaters in Germany. And that way, we are building the network from above. So we're working with Cologne, then we are working or starting to work with Volksbühne in Berlin. John is working on that. And then we are going to other theaters. And that way, we are an attractive network where people want to join because they see the successes. And if you have like 10 times for one play in one season in a big theater, and it's sold out all the time, this gives the other theaters an idea, okay, we want to repeat it, we invest in it. And that way, it doesn't cost us a dime. And this is, I'm the business guy in this scenario. This is for me important. And with the one on Putin, we are now on the way to distribute it that way. This is on the way. Yeah.
Thank you. Catarina Carvalho from Lisbon. I also do kind of, we do live journalism a bit more like Vanessa is doing with real people, I mean with people on stage that are the protagonists of the story. Sorry. How much do you control of the story when it's going to be transformed into a play? Because there are some facts, right, that you need to convey. That's why it's live journalism and so on. But being adapted by, I mean, first by your project, and it's going to be all over the place. So how do you control that this is still live journalism? Because in terms of facts being conveyed and truth and so on.
We check it. So we build a team together. It's made by professionals, so professional dramaturg, professional theater people, and professional journalists, and we are controlling the facts. So we had a play where we were, till the last second, we were fact-checking it till 5 minutes before the premiere. It works with teleprompter. It's possible. but it's very important. This is the thing from my perspective, is the crucial part. If we lose this one, we lose the facts, we produce pure fiction. Pure fiction is harmful to the whole profession.
And it is not easy, huh? It is, especially in the speed we're doing it, we are having the investigation. You can imagine that if a team of investigators are publishing in a very important investigation, they usually don't have much headspace for then fact-checking a whole theater play on top of it, right? So you have to build in many feedback loops and so on. But legally, we give the text, and it can. So far, I wrote the text together with my colleagues from Cologne. But in the future, it might be other authors. So they write this, and we are thinking about, like, basically we give them the text is fact-checked and fine, but legally it will be the theater who is responsible if they change it, and they're free to change it. They can make it, their artistic freedom. We won't say you're not allowed to bring an elephant on stage who, like, trumpets water. This is their decision. But if they put in then something which can happen, which is then somehow wrong, well, we would tell them if we hear it in time, but we cannot control. I mean, this would be madness, and we want a discourse that's alive. All we can do is provide a correct, well-done text, and we always put also the sources as much as we can for the facts, and they have the investigation of the whole story on our website, which is the actual investigation, which stays on our legal ground, right?
And what is important, if they change stuff, there's not our name on it, then it's their play.
Hi, what would you recommend to organizations or news outlets that are starting with live journalism projects that might be theater, but other types of formats? What are the challenges to look for? What would your learnings be? And what would your recommendations be for?
Vanessa?
I mean, in our experience, we did a few shows for medias, for anniversary of Spanish media and the Libération, the French one. I mean, I think which is fantastic, it's when it's done in a very collaborative way, because it doesn't have to be like the star of the media. I mean, what we did, for example, this Spanish media, El Diario.es, there are 80 journalists. We've been offering to the 80 journalists the possibility to participate. So I think this is important. Everybody, and we would spend a bit of time there so people could come to talk to us. And at the end, the show, even if there were maybe 12 people on stage, all the community of the media had the sensation that they were all represented. So this would be an important advice, not to try to go to but really to open it and for it to be a collective experience. And I think also it helped a lot in terms of feeling to which media you belong and when you've been choosing this media and why you're proud and you identify yourself to be part of it. I remember when we did this show in France for Libération, we went to the conference the next Monday, and there were young journalists saying, I understood seeing the show why I was in the media. I really wanted in the newspaper. I wanted to be, So I mean, and then of the way of working, I think it's fantastic to have journalists working because they know how to tell story, and I would say, use the first audience that you have, Ourselves, we work sometimes, and during the process, we have everybody together telling their stories, the others are listening, and so it's a first audience, and it's really a co-creation, which creates something very special within your team.
Hi, my name is Kurt. I'm from Malta. I'm currently working with Last Call Europe. My question is more based on the legal side. Have you ever had any legal repercussions? You mentioned, for example, calling up the CIA. You mentioned also having people say personal stories. Have you ever had any legal repercussions, and happened if you did?
Yeah, but we had, you can talk on the spy stuff. Of course we have legal troubles, but it's within our newsroom on the main story. So we take this burden on us, and we have lawyers to help us with that. And this is very important. So the theater has another set of rules. For example, the freedom of arts is way bigger than the freedom of expression in journalism. But as we want to have the facts right, we see our responsibility for the text we produce to make sure that these facts are right under the law for expression, not the laws for arts. And this is very important when it comes really to a lawsuit. I guess we haven't seen any of these kind of law actions against the theater because every lawyer knows that this would create an enormous scandal. And even for the attacker in this sense, for the guy who would sue us or sue the theater, it's a big risk because the court has got to decide which law applies. Is it the law for expression, which would make it very easier to be active, or is it the law of art? And this is for us right now a very good situation. So it's fine.
So yeah, I have to differentiate the stuff we did on Geheimplan, where we have ongoing stuff, but not on the theater. They never attacked the theater, as you mentioned, but only like the journalist part, freedom of expression. And my time before CORRECTIV, where I was working as a artist, and what they do is they frame you as an activist, and then I had like 4 different house raids by the police. They came and took my laptops and everything. But they said whatever. Like also Nazis called in my name and said that I killed my girlfriend. So, and then they come and, do a house raid. So this is what, like from the police repression. Then of course, Nazis in Germany try to like intimidate you by saying that they want to kill you. This I have since I work in this domain. And the secret services, normally you don't notice until your credit card doesn't work anymore, is banned or something. So I know that I have a file about me at the Interior Secret Service in Germany. I mean, they send it to me when I ask for him. But this is in a way not really dangerous, because in the file is written that I'm doing artistic work about, like critical societies topics. It's like, I don't really see, it's just funny rather to see that. So yeah, and as you said, like the spy stuff, I did it on a journalist conference in the art section. So I had these 2 shields of artistic freedom, and you don't want to have cops going into a journalist conference and raiding it, so in Germany.
There was one more, and I think it's also the last, as I need to keep the time. Da?
Hi, thank you. Sorry, I'll keep it short. I have a very practical question to Vanessa, just to make sure that I understood correctly. When you have protagonists or journalists telling the story, is it a one-person performance per story, or is the one story told by multiple people? Like, is it a stage delivery with some kind of, I don't know? Yeah, I'm just very curious, because I do feel that this is maybe an easier kind of first entry point to try to do this sort of live journalism and to work with the protagonists and coach them. But I'm trying to think if it's also, or if it's something between that and actually writing out a whole play and having actors perform it.
I mean, thank you very much for the question. Of course, there is a huge work of dramaturgy for the show, because there are all different stories. We have a lot of ideas of show that we want to have different persons saying the same stories from different point of view. I mean, there are a lot of possibilities that are amazing. But like our main show, it's like when you see a generalistic media, and it has its section: national, international, agriculture, health, sexuality, whatever. But of course, I mean, one of the main challenge is to choose the stories and to choose a protagonist for the entire show to tell you something. And this is what is fantastic about stories, that they dialogues between themselves, you know. So really, we work in a very individual way, but sometimes, for example, there are some thematic from the moment that are really present in the show. So it's, I'd say it's a kind of a mix. And when we do thematic shows, like about education, for example, this is amazing because you have on the same stage a kid who is 8 years old, and a teacher, and a parents, and a director, and the cleaner of the school. I mean, so this format really allows to create a dialogues between people maybe who even are close in their daily life, but never really are in contact together. So I think it's amazing the possibilities that you have with this format to make people dialogue between themselves, even if they're not interacting directly on the stage.
Thank you very much. We are on time. We need to stop. I hope it was a little bit inspiring to you, maybe, and hopefully not boring. This is most important.
One more just announcement. If you know anybody who wants to do undercover work, please come to me, and I'll be very happy to talk to you.
And I have another announcement that in November in Berlin, thanks to Highliner, all the live community of live journalism will get together. So it will be another good moment to get together.
Perfect. Thank you.